Ma'am, please stop and explain where you're going.
I'm just leaving my shift. I work 12 hours. I want to go home.
There's a report we need to check. I need to see some ID and know what's in the bag.
My ID is right here on my chest. I'm a nurse, not a suspect.
We need to handle this carefully, that's all.
Carefully? This is harassment. I haven't done anything wrong.
Just stay right here while I confirm.
The chilling silence of the night often hides the loudest injustices. It's a silence that can swallow truth whole, leaving only the echo of power misused. Tonight, we unravel one such silence, one such injustice, with a badge meant protection for some, but suspicion for others. Officer Derek Thorne was a familiar face on the night shift in Crestwood, a city that prided itself on its burgeoning medical district. But to many, Thorne's presence brought not reassurance, but apprehension. His internal affairs file, a thick dossier of complaints, numbered 14. 14 separate instances where citizens felt their rights had been violated, their dignity disregarded. 14 times the system had chosen to look the other way, until it couldn't any longer. Our story centers on Aaliyah Davis, a woman who had dedicated her life to healing. A registered nurse with a Master of Science in Nursing, Aaliyah was a beacon of professionalism and compassion within the demanding walls of Crestwood General Hospital. She was exiting the very institution where she saved lives, a place she had earned her standing, only to be treated like a criminal. Her credentials, meticulously earned over years of grueling study and selfless service, meant nothing in the face of an officer's preconceived notions. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and let us know your city and state. Your engagement helps us bring these stories to light. It was a Tuesday night, just past 11:30 p.m., when the crisp autumn air bit at the edges of Crestwood. A fine, persistent drizzle had begun to fall, slicking the cobblestone streets with a dark sheen that reflected the neon glow of the downtown district. But here on the quieter, tree-lined avenue surrounding Crestwood General Hospital, the silence was punctuated only by the distant wail of an ambulance and the soft hum of the city settling in for the night. The hospital itself, a formidable structure of glass and steel, stood as a monument to modern medicine. Its emergency room entranced a constant flurry of activity, even at this late hour. Inside, Aaliyah Davis had just completed a grueling 14-hour shift in the intensive care unit. Her scrubs, though neatly pressed at the start of her day, now bore the faint, indelible marks of a shift spent in constant motion, of lives teetering on the brink. Her hair, usually pulled back in a precise bun, had escaped its confines, framing a face etched with the exhaustion of a demanding profession. Aaliyah wasn't just a nurse. She was a highly respected charge nurse in the ICU, a position she had held for 5 years. She held a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from a prestigious university in Northwood and a Master of Science in Nursing Administration from the equally renowned Crestwood State University. She had received the hospital's Excellence in Care Award 3 years running and was a beloved mentor to junior staff. She had earned her position and her reputation, and her right to walk out of that hospital, head held high, at any hour of the night. Meanwhile, Officer Derek Thorne, badge number 412, was patrolling Sector 7, a route that frequently brought him past the hospital. Thorne had been with the Crestwood Police Department for 12 years, a tenure marked by a troubling pattern of behavior. According to Internal Affairs records, his 14 complaints included a litany of alleged abuses. In 2018, he faced accusations of excessive force during a routine traffic stop, where a civilian motorist suffered a fractured arm. The official report cited resisting arrest, a claim vehemently disputed by the victim, but the complaint was ultimately dismissed due to insufficient evidence. A year later, in 2019, Thorne was the subject of a racial profiling complaint. A prominent black attorney, driving a luxury vehicle through an affluent neighborhood, was pulled over by Thorne without any stated cause. The attorney, Mr. Elijah Vance, reported Thorne's dismissive attitude and racially charged remarks during the stop, alleging he was told, "You don't look like you belong in this part of town." The department issued a verbal counseling to Thorne, a slap on the wrist that did little to address the underlying issue. In 2020, bystander video surfaced, showing Thorne verbally abusing a homeless man near the city's main park. The footage, grainy but undeniable, depicted Thorne shouting obscenities and threatening the man with arrest for loitering, despite the man simply sitting on a public bench. Public outcry was significant, but the department again opted for a minimal response, citing stress of the job, as a mitigating factor. Then, in late 2021, a more serious accusation emerged, a claim of an unjustified search and potential evidence planting during a late-night raid on a suspected drug house. While the charges against the suspect were eventually dismissed due to procedural errors, the internal investigation into Thorne's conduct was inconclusive. The pattern was clear. Officer Thorne operated with perceived impunity, his actions consistently skirting the line of departmental policy and often crossing into outright abuse, yet he remained on the force. The call came in at 11:38 p.m. Dispatch logs revealed it was an anonymous tip, vague and racially tinged. Suspicious person, possibly a male, wearing dark clothing, loitering near the employee parking garage exit of Crestwood General. Looks like they might be trying to break into cars or something. Could be casing the place. The description was generic, lacking any specific details that would distinguish a threat from a tired employee. Yet, Officer Thorne, already patrolling nearby, responded with an almost eager urgency. Aaliyah Davis, meanwhile, was simply trying to get home. Her shift had been particularly harrowing, involving a complex cardiac arrest and 2 rapid responses. All she wanted was the quiet solitude of her car, the short drive home, and the promise of a hot shower and a few hours of sleep before her next shift. She clutched her hospital ID badge, still clipped to her scrubs, and her car keys as she navigated the brightly lit but now deserted employee parking garage. Her car, a modest sedan, was parked on the 3rd level. The routine was ingrained. Scan her badge at the exit turnstile, walk to her car, drive home. Mundane, legitimate, completely unremarkable. As Aaliyah approached her vehicle, fumbling with her keys, a sudden burst of blue and red light flooded the concrete walls of the garage. A patrol car, its sirens silent but its lights flashing ominously, pulled up sharply behind her. Officer Thorne emerged, his hand already on his weapon, his expression unreadable beneath the brim of his cap. Evening. Thorne's voice cut through the quiet, amplified by the acoustics of the garage. "What are you doing here?" Aaliyah, startled, turned slowly. I work here. I'm a nurse. I just finished my shift." Her voice, though weary, held a note of professional calm. "Let me see some ID," Thorne commanded, his tone already adversarial. Aaliyah reached for her hospital badge, still clipped to her scrub top, and held it out. "Here, I'm Aaliyah Davis, charge nurse. ICU, my employee ID." Thorne barely glanced at it. "Anyone can fake that. That doesn't prove anything. What's your state ID?" Aaliyah, her patience beginning to fray after a grueling shift, complied, reaching into her purse for her driver's license. "Officer, I assure you I am an employee here. I've worked at Crestwood General for 15 years. 15 years, huh? And you're just loitering around the parking garage at this hour?" Thorne scoffed, snatching her license. He ran it through his patrol car's computer, his back to her. The implication was clear. She was not to be trusted, her word worth less than the anonymous tip that brought him here. Should officers be required to verify credentials presented at the scene, especially when dealing with individuals identified as healthcare professionals actively leaving their workplace? Or should a single, vague, anonymous tip override all immediate evidence of legitimate presence? The confrontation escalated rapidly. Thorne returned from his car, his demeanor hardening. "Okay, Ms. Davis. There's been a report of a suspicious person trying to break into vehicles. You fit the description." "I fit the description?" Aaliyah's voice rose, a mix of disbelief and indignation. "Officer, I'm wearing my scrubs. I have my hospital ID. My name is on the schedule. You can call the ICU right now. My supervisor is Sergeant Elena Rodriguez. She's still on duty." "I don't need to call anyone, ma'am. I have a report and you're being detained." Thorne moved closer, his hand still hovering near his sidearm. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." "Detained? For what? I've done nothing wrong." Aaliyah protested, her exhaustion replaced by a surge of adrenaline. "This is outrageous. I'm a nurse. I save lives in this hospital." I said, "Hands behind your back or I'll do it for you." Thorne's voice was a low growl, devoid of empathy. He produced handcuffs. At this point, Another nurse, Sarah Jenkins, also leaving late, rounded the corner and saw the unfolding scene. Her eyes widened in horror. "Aaliyah? What's going on?" she called out, pulling out her phone. "Sarah," called Sergeant Rodriguez. "Tell her Officer Thorne is arresting me for nothing." Aaliyah shouted, her voice breaking. Thorne spun toward Sarah. "Ma'am, step back. This is an active investigation." As Sarah began dialing, several other hospital employees, drawn by the commotion and the flashing lights, started to gather at a safe distance, their phones now recording. The garage, moments ago silent, was now filled with the tension of an unfolding drama. Just as Thorne was about to physically restrain Aaliyah, a new set of headlights pierced the garage. A black SUV, marked Supervisor, screeched to a halt. Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, her face a mask of concern and anger, exited the vehicle, her eyes immediately scanning the scene. "Thorne, what the hell is going on here?" Sergeant Rodriguez's voice boomed, cutting through the strained atmosphere. She recognized Aaliyah instantly. "Nurse Davis? What are you doing here?" "Sergeant Rodriguez." Aaliyah exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. "This officer is trying to arrest me. He says I'm a suspicious person." Sergeant Rodriguez turned her piercing gaze on Thorne. "Officer, stand down. Immediately. What is the charge?" Thorne, visibly flustered by the arrival of his superior, stammered, "Suspicious activity, Sergeant. Anonymous tip. She was loitering." "Loitering? In her scrubs? With her hospital ID?" Rodriguez walked directly to Aaliyah, taking her arm gently. "Aaliyah, are you all right?" She then turned back to Thorne, her voice firm, authoritative. "Officer Thorne, badge and weapon. Now, you are relieved of duty pending immediate investigation." The immediate resolution was swift and decisive. Sergeant Rodriguez, knowing Aaliyah personally and recognizing the egregious nature of Thorne's actions, wasted no time. She personally escorted Aaliyah back into the hospital, ensuring she was safe and offering profound apologies on behalf of the department. Thorne, stripped of his badge and sidearm, was ordered to report to Internal Affairs first thing in the morning. The incident, however, was far from over. The videos captured by bystanders in the parking garage exploded across social media within hours. One particular clip, showing Thorne dismissively waving away Aaliyah's hospital ID and refusing to listen to her explanations, garnered over 10 million views on Twitter by dawn. The hashtag Justice for Aaliyah and hashtag Nurses Are Not Criminals trended nationally. News outlets picked up the story, broadcasting the disturbing footage to millions. The narrative was undeniable. A highly respected black nurse, targeted and nearly arrested for simply leaving her workplace, her professional identity disregarded by an officer seemingly driven by unchecked bias. Should officers who engage in clear acts of racial profiling and wrongful detention, especially when ignoring obvious evidence, face automatic termination and decertification? Or should the system continue to offer avenues for their reinstatement? The institutional responses were immediate and varied. Crestwood General Hospital issued a statement condemning the incident and pledging full support to Nurse Davis. The mayor of Crestwood, facing immense public pressure, announced an independent review of the police department's training protocols and complaint procedures. Aaliyah Davis, however, refused to let the incident be swept under the rug with mere statements. Within a week, she filed a civil rights lawsuit against Officer Derek Thorne and the city of Crestwood. The lawsuit, meticulously documented by her legal team, alleged racial discrimination, false imprisonment, emotional distress, and violation of her 4th and 14th Amendment rights. It argued that Thorne's actions were not an isolated incident, but a clear manifestation of a systemic failure within the Crestwood Police Department to address deeply ingrained biases and hold officers accountable for their misconduct. The suit specifically cited Thorne's extensive history of complaints, arguing that the city was negligent in retaining an officer with such a clear pattern of problematic behavior. The city, reeling from the public outcry and the undeniable evidence, quickly moved to negotiate. After weeks of intense legal wrangling, a settlement was reached. The city of Crestwood agreed to pay Aaliyah Davis $5.7 million. This sum, one of the largest settlements in the city's history for a civil rights violation, represented a stark acknowledgment of profound harm inflicted upon Aaliyah and the city's culpability in allowing an officer like Thorne to operate with such impunity. As for Officer Thorne, his career with the Crestwood Police Department came to an abrupt and ignominious end. His termination letter, a document now public record, stated, "Officer Derek Thorne is hereby terminated from the Crestwood Police Department, effective immediately, for gross misconduct, dereliction of duty, and actions bringing disrepute upon the department, specifically referencing the incident involving Nurse Aaliyah Davis on October 17, 2023. Furthermore, the state's Peace Officer Standards and Training Post Board moved to decertify Thorne, effectively barring him from serving as a law enforcement officer anywhere in the state. His badge, once a symbol of authority, was now a mark of shame. Weeks after the settlement, Aaliyah Davis stood before a packed press conference, her voice clear and resonant, a testament to her unwavering strength. This settlement, this termination, it is not just about me, she began, her gaze sweeping across the reporters. It is about every single black professional, every person of color who has ever been made to feel like they don't belong, like their credentials, their hard work, their very humanity, can be erased by a single prejudiced glance. If this can happen to me, a charge nurse with 15 years of dedicated service, leaving the very hospital where I save lives, what hope is there for others who do not have the same platform, the same support, the same irrefutable evidence?" Her voice gained power. "We cannot allow the color of our skin to be a permanent suspicion. We cannot allow those sworn to protect us to instead terrorize us. This is not just a personal victory. It is a call to action. It is a demand that our institutions, our police departments, look inward, confront their biases, and dismantle the systems that allow officers like Derek Thorne to flourish, to continue harming communities without consequence. Should this incident and the undeniable pattern of misconduct by Officer Thorne trigger a federal investigation into the systemic practices of the Crestwood Police Department, or is local oversight sufficient to address such deep-seated issues? The department's internal findings, eventually released to the public, painted a damning picture of systemic failures. They highlighted a critical lack of comprehensive de-escalation training, an inadequate review process for citizen complaints, and a pervasive culture that implicitly tolerated, rather than actively challenged, implicit bias within its ranks. The report noted that Thorne's repeated complaints should have triggered more severe interventions long before the incident with Nurse Davis. The verbal counseling and stress of the job, excuses were no longer tenable. In response to the public outcry and the findings, the Crestwood Police Department announced a series of sweeping reforms. These included mandatory, recurring implicit bias training for all officers, the immediate deployment of body cameras for every patrol officer, and revised stop-and-frisk policy that now required officers to articulate specific, verifiable reasons for initiating a stop, with greater emphasis on de-escalation tactics. A new independent civilian review board was also established, granted expanded powers to investigate complaints and recommend disciplinary actions. This case is a stark reminder that even in the face of irrefutable evidence, even when a professional is clearly identified by their uniform and credentials, ingrained bias can override all reason. The consequences for Officer Thorne were severe: termination, decertification, and a public shaming that will forever follow him. The consequences for the city of Crestwood were also significant: a multi-million-dollar settlement, a tarnished reputation, and a mandated overhaul of its police department. But the deepest consequence, the one that lingers, is the erosion of trust between the community and those sworn to protect it. What truly changes now? Will these reforms be genuinely implemented and sustained, or will they fade as public attention shifts? What concrete policy changes do you believe are absolutely essential to prevent such abuses of power from occurring in your community? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The story of Aaliyah Davis is not just a cautionary tale. It is a testament to resilience, a powerful indictment of systemic injustice, and a beacon of hope that accountability, however delayed, is possible. We're not stopping here. We will continue to shine a light on these stories, because it's about more than just one incident, one officer, one city. It's about all of us and the fight for a justice system that truly serves everyone.